All right, good morning, everyone. So we're just going to start. I think we just, I'll make, no, yeah, definitely. I'll make the recording available for everyone else. So who is here today? So we have Bishop Desola and Victoria. Well, this is like the class that continues what we've been learning for the last 5 weeks. And I was really hoping that everybody would be able to make it for today's class. Yeah. Apologies. So to start out, we've been learning about brands. We've talked about brands, what branding is. We've gone over to even see how branding is utilized in the creative advertising agency, or how branding informs the ideas and thoughts that come around to become ads. We've looked at some notable brands. We've looked at some concepts around communication. We've looked at messaging, and I think one of the key things we looked at last week was on how to manage crisis. So yes, so just a heads up, I have not fixed what I was supposed to fix, but the Lord is our strength. So we're still going to be having our classes broken down into 40 minutes. Yeah, so everyone can see my screen, right?
I can see your screen.
You can't?
I can.
Oh, okay. All right. That's exciting. So today we're going to be looking at the communication strategy document, but it's going to cover what a communication strategy is, and we might touch a bit of how a communication strategy document differs from a brand strategy document, and and where they find an intersects, and possibly, it's also something that is used interchangeably. You'd hear strategy document, you hear strategy in basically almost every department that exists in an organization, or almost every department that comes together to ensure that a brand maintains its reputation. But these are basically some of the things we'll be looking at today. And so as I said earlier, we're going to have this class broken into two, because I don't have money and I could not pay for the Zoom subscription. So we're going to be using the 40 minutes that they give us for a license to Zoom that is unpaid for. Hey, this is on live recording. Hey, I've cast myself. All right. Yes. So firstly, I would want us to unmute ourselves and take these oaths, because if you not take the oaths, the next slide would not show. So, are we ready?
Unmute.
It's an oath. Yes, it's an oath. And I'll explain after we have taken the oath.
What? Pertaining to the...
What?
Okay. I feel like pertaining to what the oath says, maybe I don't want to take it because of what it says. Like, I'm literally good already.
Trust me. Trust me. Trust me, right? Just trust me. All right, so let's go. 1, 2, ready, go.
I
I
solemnly swear
solemnly
Swear
swear I
I
am
am
up
up
I
to
am
to
no
up
good.
no
to.
good.
Ah.
Ah.
My
All right.
point is my point is that I'm already up to no good. So do I still have to take the oath?
Yes, you have to take the oath. It's the rule.
Yes, but I'm already up to no good.
Well, I like that you're already up to no good. Well, a bit of backstory. This oath is what you recite. It's more like a spell that you recite when you are using the Marauders map uh in Hogwarts in Harry Potter. So Harry Potter's dad and his friends created a map that could show you what's their school's name. It's a map of Hogwarts, but for the map is an invisible map. So if any other person collects the map, it's just going to appear like a blank sheet of paper. But for the map to show, you have to swear that you are up to no good, which of course you have to be up to no good for you to want to use the Marauders map. So the map shows you every single person. The map shows you your position and shows you every other person's position in the school. So you're able to know people in your proximity, when you need to hide, when you need to walk faster, when someone is coming behind you. The map shows you all of that. But initially, you have to be up to no good. And if we remember at the start of this workshop, in the introductory document, I said that one of the key things, or one of the most important things in being a brand comms person is to be able to see the invisible lines and connect them. So we are basically, your job is to see things that might not be apparent to your organization and that might not be apparent to your clients, and work with that information, just like when you are using the Marauders map. So since I've given a bit of context, do we want to take the oath again, or we should proceed with the class?
Let's take the oath.
All right, so let's go. 1, 2, 3, go. I solemnly swear I am up to no good.
No good.
All right, glad that we are all up to no good. But no good is good at the same time. So moving on. The brand cartographer. A cartographer is a person that creates a map. So as a person that would be working, so either you're using this personally, or either you want to incorporate this into your process as either a designer or whatever you are, or you want to work full-time for an organization or part-time, or you want to consult for businesses. What you do basically is cartography, which is the art of map making. The brand cartographer is you, the person who is responsible for crafting out the strategy document. You're the one who draws the roadmap that takes your clients on a journey from A, where he is, to B, where he wants to be. And for that to happen, you have to be very prepared. So you have to put out all your tools. And these tools are some of the things we have looked at over time, and over the course of 5 weeks. And they are very, very important. So basically today we are going to be seeing how all of these things come together to ensure that we get a good strategy document out there, or we are able to develop a good strategy. Now, so Marty says that a brand strategy is a plan for the systematic development of a brand in alignment with a business strategy. So it acts as a guide, directing you on how to maintain the bigger picture. Now, moving on to the document that actually dictates the activities involved in interacting with your audience is the communication strategy document. Now, I'm going to explain. Normally, a strategy is like a plan, a detailed step-by-step procedures you have to take towards a certain goal. Now, when that goal is maintaining the reputation of the organization, that particular document can be called a brand strategy document, or that particular strategy can be called a brand strategy. If the consummation, or if the endpoint of what you want to achieve by drawing out those steps is to maintain the reputation of the brand, or is to maintain the reputation of the brand, or strengthen the perception of that people have of that, strengthen the perception in people's mind about your organization, or about the brand in concern. Now, and we're going to see how each of these things fits, because some of the questions you might have would be that in developing a brand, is communications not a part of it? Yes, true. Communication is a part of developing, is a core part that should be considered when you are developing a brand, or when you aim to build a reputable brand. But what happens is that strategy happens in such a way that what you do on the macro scale, you'd also replicate the same process on much more smaller scales. So I said that a brand strategy document is more or less a framework that details all there is to know about your brand and how you intend to maintain or build your narrative. Now, the goal of this particular document, that the brand strategy document, is to influence the perception of your audience in such a way that you are always top of mind. So, and over the course of the workshop, we've looked at how there's a need, or the importance of actually discovering your why, your values, your belief, how you sound, how you look at the same time. And so all of these things are required when you're putting together your brand strategy document. So, and if we do not forget that a strategy is just a step-by-step process from going from A to B. So now, and one core thing is that, remember that a strategy document, or a brand, is a living entity. I think we started with that in week 1. A brand is a living entity. So what you are creating also for the brand has to be alive. So your strategy document can also be referred to as a living document, because that particular document is going to evolve. It is going to grow, it is going to evolve, it is going to adapt to all the things that would happen over the course of you developing your strategy document. Now, a communication strategy document, which would simply refer to as a strategy document from here on out, is a SMART document. So SMART is basically how we have been taught over time to to develop plans or strategy or goals in that sense. So it must be created with specific, measurable, achievable, relatable, or realistic and time-bound goals. So it's not a document that you incorporate a lot of wishful thinking. It's basically a serious, very, very serious, but then you can be playful about it if you're me. It's a serious business. It's just like I said, it's not where you incorporate wishful thinking, because at every point in time, everything that you take down would be pivotal to the next set of things that you are going to be writing, or that you are going to be putting putting together. And this strategy document has two parts. Now, this is just how I interpret it and how it helps me understand what I am doing. So strategy document has two parts, and and for every strategy document I have developed, for every strategy document I have put together, it always comprises of these two parts. One, the part that informs, that gives an overview of the brand, its why, what, who, and where, its values, voices, or its voice, its belief, its audience, etc. So it's basically like a brand overview. So this basically just helps you know where you are. It guides you. It's like a bigger picture, something that you keep at the fore of your mind when you are putting together whatever you are putting together, when you're putting together these steps that would help you interact with your audience, because it's a communication document, because you're going to be interacting with some set of people. This is if I hope we did our assignment on audience segmentation, but it's a document that guides you into talking to, or that guides how you should talk to each and every person that makes up your audience, whether your primary, your secondary, or your tertiary, or depending on how many categories you want to classify your audience in. So it's actually very, very important that you embody the fourth section, because it becomes a part and parcel of what you do and evolve into. So embodying the first section is just basically you getting to really, really understand it and become one with the knowledge of the brand that you are developing a communication strategy for. And then the second part is the part that we'll be dwelling more on today, and it's the part that instructs you. Now, this part takes you on the journey from who you are. It charts the course to where you would want to be, and it takes you there. Now, when you are putting together a strategy document, it can take you a few minutes, depending on how many years you've been doing this. It can take you a couple of hours. Sometimes it can take you days, depending again, and it can even take you months, right? But the tricky part, and the part that will require you to commit much more to it, is when you begin to implement, the things that you've outlined. And that's why it's a serious business. That's why you are going to commit to it. That's why you are going to make sure that day in, day out, come rain, come sunshine, whether you feel like it or not, you are able to put pen to paper and ensure that the things that you've outlined for your brand or for your business or for yourself as an individual is you meet up to the task. So, and then I'm just going to chip this in, that it requires you to be consistent, right? It requires you to be consistent, and you are the one who defines what consistency is to you. But definitely consistency can and is closely related with showing up every day. So you might not show up as 100% every day, but you show up every day and add the little quota you can towards getting to where you are going to. Now, the crux of this is that you are laying down building blocks that each and every block you make after would be set on it. It's just like you're building a house. We are building a very, very big house, and every block you lay as a foundation. So your understanding, or the accurate understanding of the organization you are working with, or the discovery of your why, in that sense, as Simon Sinek would advise us to do, to start with why, is on that foundation that you lay every other experience on, because that's what you want people to come, and that's what you want people to connect with, right? That's what you want people to come to trust. Because when you are in a building, what you are putting your trust on is not on the blocks that you can see above you. It's on the blocks that have gone under the ground, under the ground, to ensure that the blocks above you stand. It's just a very, very, I think it's a very accurate illustration for me, because if they told me that a building's foundation is not strong, I am not going to find myself in the building. If I'm in the building, it will be, I would so not trust it. I'll take my time. No, I'll not even take my time. I would always be in a hurry when I'm there. I would want to leave at every point in time, because what if rain start falling and the foundation is not strong? So in quotes, what you're actually putting your trust in when you walk into a house, when you walk into a magnificent building, is the amount of work that has gone into laying the foundation. And because that's what makes every other single block stand. And that's what you do as a brand strategist, or as someone who understands strategy, or as someone who understands communications, because the basis of communications is understanding who you are talking to and from whom you are talking from, if that makes sense. So I needed to add this because this amazing drawing, just so you know, it won an award in the Museum of Culture and Arts in 1974. So I'm just putting it out there. So as a brands person, imagine you are Legolas. I don't like Hawkeye, because there are some places that they've compared Hawkeye with Legolas, and I'm like, are they kidding me? So imagine you are Legolas. Legolas is from Lord of the Rings. He's the elf that is an archer in Lord of the Rings. So you are reverse engineering your process from your target backwards. So strategy involves you actually being able to see where you are going to, firstly, or having a perception of where you want to be or where you want to get to, firstly. Then you are reverse engineering, that's putting, laying down all the things you consider possible or that should be done towards ensuring you get there. Oh, Team Legolas. These are people that are, oh God bless you. Let me just put this out there. God bless you. So you're reverse engineering your process from your target backwards. So you're like a marksman. You need to see your targets. You need to measure and make calculations. And this would inform how far back you'd pull the bow for the arrow to reach its target. So in quotes, you are taking into consideration every single thing that needs to be taken into consideration. Just like a sniper takes into consideration wind speed, temperature, whatever. But he takes into consideration everything he needs to take into consideration. And it's the same thing when you are a marksman or when you're an archer. Take into consideration wind speed, distance, possible obstacles on the way, and all that plenty English. Even you take into consideration the weight of the bullets, or the weight of the gun, and the weight of your arrow, or the weight of your bow, in all of that stuff when you are actually pulling back, or when you are trying to snipe a person that's a distance away. But, that's all of those things you put into consideration before actually taking your shot from point A to point B is what you call strategy, as you can see here. So in this award-winning artwork. So moving on. Distributed responsibility. So in strategy, just like I said, they are taking into consideration every single thing that needs to be considered to ensure that you get to where you are going to. In strategy, you are highlighting every single factor that would and should be considered in order for you to get to point B. Everyone should know what they are responsible for. And outlining this would help you confirm if you'd be bringing in more hands or not. So if you're doing strategy for a business, help properly outlining all that they would need to get from where they are currently to where they would be would help you know which departments needs to function at which particular time, what each person on the board should be working towards, and whether they will need to hire or have contract staff, or whether they'll need to have a part-time staff. So all of these things are incorporated into strategy. And if you're doing it for yourself, right, you want to get, and that's like one of the first things we started with when I asked you what you'd like to be in the next 5 to 10 years, or where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years? And I told you to outline all the things you need to be able to get there. Now, if you want to, okay, I think it was Emmanuel that said that he wants to handle the branding of a major football club. So if you would want to do that, you are working your way into ensuring that your designs get to the football community or something like that. You need to put into consideration who you need to meet. If you're an individual, you need to put into consideration the places you need to go, who you need to meet, what you need to learn, etc. How much money you need to have at this period in time, what you can use your money currently to get, or what your money can do currently, and how much you need to get in the next couple of months, years, to be able to get X, Y, Z. And then it might not be money, it might be connections, it might be people you need to know, it might be it might be people you even need to have pictures with, funny thing, and it might be places you need to eat, and just so that you can get from point A to point B. So you're putting into consideration all of those things. And yes, it doesn't really happen as exactly as we would imagine, right? But in an organization, so what you might, an outline or an overview of the things that you might need to consider if you're working with an organization might be design, marketing, engineering, sales, finances, people, media, etc., etc. So all of these things are things you need to put into consideration to effectively come up with a strategy that is feasible. And remember, again, it must be realistic. It must be things that the organization can actually do, putting all the factors you are putting in together. So it's not asking a UAC food that they are going to be on the moon in the next 5 to 10 years, right? Like someone was telling Nigerians that we are going to be on the moon in the next 5 to 10 years. But, just putting it out there, right? Strategy is a wormhole. So what you do on, just like I said earlier, what you do on the macro scale, you also get to do it on the micro scale and also apply it in even much smaller places till all grounds are covered. On most days, you're like number one from KidNet Store. So number one is the guy who develops the plans and goes on ahead to lead the team into implementing the plans. This is from KidNet Store. Or if you cannot relate with KidNet Store, you can relate with Professor from La Casa de Papel. Money Heist, yes, that's the listing. So strategy, recipe, plans, outline, tactics, different words, different fields of application, but they all refer to the same thing. They all refer to the same thing. And now implementing strategy. Now this is Ed and Eddie. These guys, Ed and Eddie, they are very, very good at implementing strategy. Just that most of the times their plans always fail because they always want to get jawbreakers and stuff like that. But most of the time their plans always fail because they do not factor in all the possible stakeholders that they will need to meet, beat, or overcome in order for their strategy to work out. So to implement a great strategy, you need to there are a few things you need to consider. What are the major stakeholders? The CEO, the investors, line managers. Where, if you are in the organization, where are you in the organizational structure? Are you someone that has decision-making power, or you are someone that needs to report to someone, that needs to report to someone, that needs to report to someone before your idea gets implemented? And would you need to get this stuff done? So these are a few of the questions, but I think they're an overview of all of the things that you might need to implement your strategy. So you've outlined the strategy. I think the best scenario to use is a personal scenario, more like in a personal branding outlook. So Desola, what do you say you want to do again? Desola wanted to do brand for, she wants to be a brand designer and a product designer. She did not really have any big dreams, right? But she wants to be a brand and product designer in a big firm. So for that to happen, yeah, so you might need to, just like I said, who are the people you need to know, and who are the possible stakeholders. So for this particular vision that Desola had, she's the major stakeholder in her strategy. So she's the one that needs to carry out she's the one that does major work on the front line, and she's also the one that gives the instructions at the back end. So the person she needs to overcome is herself. That's just by the way. But I think much more in our next section, which will start in like 5 minutes, because this one will close in 5 minutes. We are going to look into, we are going to actually dwell on this. We'll have scenarios and questions around this in the next couple of minutes. So we're actually going to dwell on this and have possible scenarios, and I might even share a document I've worked on, but it will not be as extensive. Well, should I share it? So yes, who are the major stakeholders again? Where are you in the organizational structure, and what do you need to get stuff done? Do you have a skill that you don't? Is there a particular skill that needs that? Do you need a person with a particular skill that on board for your strategy to actually work out? Do you need a particular knowledge? Would there be enough time for you to actually gain that knowledge, or you just employ someone that has that knowledge? So these are all of the things you consider when you begin to implement your strategy. And yes, at this juncture, we can take questions. Please ask questions, because questions will help me narrow down all the plenty things I would have said today. And this picture was looking clear when I was designing it. So this is blank, by the way. Yes, questions, please, anybody? Questions? Nobody? It's impossible. Questions now. All right. So since there are no questions, this is what we are going to do. So I'm going to end this session, and we are going to join right back so that we have the next 40 minutes to treat possible questions. Do you agree? I will take that as a yes.
Oh.